Welcome to PaddyCast. In this episode, we're joined by former Ulster and Irish rugby star Tommy Bowe. How are you, Tommy?
Paddy, good to chat to you. Pleasure to be on the PaddyCast. I've watched a couple of them actually, so it's nice to be here.
Well, you're my first rugby star, so it's great to have you as my first guest in the rugby world.
Well, I thought, and the ones I saw all your belts in behind you. You're showing off there, so I thought I might as well try and find somewhere that I have no trophies, I'm afraid. What are the belts? So I was looking at them, trying to work them out.
So they're like the world ranking belts
Right.
from WBO. They're not major titles.
Oh,
But
class, though.
I must say, Carl Frontenham got any of those.
Listen, Carl who? That's
Exactly.
the question.
No, so tell me, what I really want to know is obviously everyone knows you from being the Irish rugby star, but I want to know how you get started in rugby from like your grassroots level upwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, listen, Paddy, I came through not really the conventional way. I'm from Monaghan, which is definitely not a rugby stronghold. There's only one rugby club in the whole county. But my dad went to university in Dublin, played a bit of rugby, and he was involved in Monaghan Rugby Club through playing and whatever else. So he got me into mini rugby there. But really, growing up in sport, as a family, we're involved in every sport. So I played Gaelic football, I played soccer, I played rugby, horse riding, tennis, golf, you name it. I just loved every sport going. And rugby really was my first love. It was rugby and Gaelic football. So the way it worked was that Gaelic football, I would do that during the summer season. And then through the winter, it would be rugby season.
Yeah.
So I suppose they were both 50-50 at that stage. And then I actually went to school in Armagh. So I ended up going to school north of the border in Armagh, Royal School Armagh. And that's where rugby really was taken to a new level. It's pretty much a rugby school. So from there, that's kind of how I really got stuck into it. And I had to make a decision when I was about 17 whether I was going to pick Gaelic football or rugby. But at that stage, rugby was my number one.
Like, I was talking to someone during the week about you, and he says to me that everyone talks about how big of a loss you were to GAA. What do you think about that?
Do you know what? Like, I was a terrible shot. I used to just get the ball, and I played underage. I played underage for Monaghan under 15, 16, 17s. But the problem was the minor team wanted me to train in the winter, and that was the rugby season. So that's when I had to make the decision, well, which one am I going to pick? So rugby was my first love. But you listen, coming from Monaghan, Gaelic football was everything to the people of Monaghan, and my local club, Emmy Vale, as well. It's a religion down there. So I really love Gaelic football. I did really, really enjoy it. But I don't know whether I really was going to go too far. At that stage, I didn't know how good Monaghan even were.
Yeah.
And listen, rugby, I didn't even think I was going to become a professional rugby player. At that stage, at 17, 18, it didn't look like that was going to be a future for me. I didn't play for Ireland schools, which is the traditional where you go from. I barely made it onto the Ulster schools, and I wasn't even the best player on our school team. There's a guy called Gareth Steenson who is still playing professional rugby for Exeter Chiefs, who are in the European Cup semi-final at the minute. He's their captain, and he's actually from Armagh and my school team. So I wasn't even the best player in my team. So I didn't really think that professionalism was going to be for me.
Like, so obviously you're telling us that you were a late bloomer, so to say.
Yeah.
Like you say, you choose rugby. Was there any particular reason? Because Monaghan is one of those counties, like doing it for the parish in GA sense.
Yeah.
Was there any particular reason you choose rugby over GA? No, or was it because of the school?
Well, I think it was because. So my parish was Emmy Vale. I ended up going to a primary school which was outside the parish. So I was kind of always a little bit of an outsider in the parish in a sense. Yeah. And then when I went to school in Armagh and I used to come back and train in Monaghan and Emmy Vale again, I was still a little bit of an outsider because I wasn't going to school with all the lads who were in the team. but I still loved it, and I still, you know, it was very much about doing it for the parish and doing it for the county. But at that stage, you know yourself, the guys who you hang around with in school, they're your closest mates. And I was playing rugby with my closest mates, and that was really where the love came from, you know.
It was an easy decision then. You know, you went to Queens, you played football, sorry, you played rugby in Queens, am I right?
So I'll tell you, so again, so my plan actually was to go to university in Scotland and give up rugby. And the thing was, my A-levels didn't go the way I'd planned. So the course that I was hoping to get into in Scotland was some sort of property course. And my A-levels, I didn't get the grades needed to get into the course. And really the courses that I'd expected to get into, I wasn't getting accepted for any of them. So it was a real big setback. And I know my mum was just devastated. So it was out of nowhere, my school rugby coach got in touch with Alan Clark. There was a course available in the University of Ulster up in Belfast, construction engineering course that I could get into that. And Kenny Hooks, who was my school coach, got in touch with Alan Clark, who is head of the Ulster Academy, who said, listen, he's coming to Belfast to study, give him a chance, give him a wild card, or give him a trial to get into the Ulster Academy. And whatever I did, I had 2 trials, and they were kind of trial matches, and they were probably the best rugby matches I'd ever played. So from that, I got brought into the Ulster Academy totally as a wild card. I studied in Belfast, and pretty much within 2 years, I had my first cap for Ireland. So it actually all happened really, really fast. And I thank the Ulster Academy, but Queen's Rugby Club. So I studied in University of Ulster, but played rugby for Queen's. Listen, and I've never done the traditional route. But Queen's, playing for a university team, you know, they played exciting rugby, running it from everywhere. But the crack and the crack we had off the park and off the pitch, you know, for a few beers and stuff was really was brilliant.
But tell me this, for someone who I do watch rugby, but I wouldn't know really much behind the scenes in terms of like Queens on the level to Ulster. So, you know, what was the difference between the level of competition from playing school Queens and playing like for the province of Ulster?
Say that again. Sorry, I lost you there.
Oh, okay. No, I'm saying like for people who, including myself, who wouldn't know, you explain like the difference between playing for like the Queens and against playing for Ulster. Is there a difference?
So Ulster is obviously the province, and it's the one professional province, right? But in Ulster, there are clubs called, you have Belfast Harlequins, you have Malone, you have Ballymena, Dungannon, Ballynahinch, and Queens, and basically there's called an All-Ireland League. So you have All-Ireland League 1, 2, 3, and at that stage, Queens were only in All-Ireland League 3, so we weren't one of the top teams at all. But it's a university team, and from there, you know, I was playing decent enough rugby, but it wasn't at AIL 3, which is what Ballymena and Dungannon and Belfast Harlequins would have been at that stage. So it's not professional. I think actually back in those days, some of those clubs did play players. I know that when I mentioned Gareth Steents and a couple of those guys who would have been Ulster schools with me, they got paid by the clubs, just a few quid, not much. But with Queens, we actually had to pay to play. So we had to pay £1 or £5 every time we had an away trip, because all that money accumulated, and it meant we had a massive session at the end of the year.
But it's money well spent.
I was more than happy to pay for that one.
So obviously, like, you're paying for Ulster at the time. Few years there, but then you left Ulster for the Ospreys in Swansea, or was it Swansea?
Swansea.
Was that an easy decision?
No, it was probably the toughest decision of my career. I was playing for Ulster for 5 years at that stage, and I felt that, you know, I was playing okay, but I had been dropped out of the Ireland team. So I was playing for Ireland for a few years, and then all of a sudden I just fell out of favour with the head coach, Eddie O'Sullivan. And no matter what I could do, no matter how well I was playing for Ulster, he just wouldn't pick me. And And for that reason, I knew I needed to try something different. Everything I was doing with Ulster, it just didn't seem to work. And I was just getting fed up. And I felt it was just getting to like a bit of a comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I needed to
Deal.
push myself out of there. And the opportunity, my contract was up. The opportunity came up to move. And at that stage, nobody left the Irish provinces. It was kind of like if you were getting picked for Ulster, everybody stayed there. But
Yeah.
I thought it was an opportunity. I always wanted to get away and try something different. And I know Swansea and Wales isn't the far side of the world, but it's a different group of people you're meeting over there. And the Welsh and the Irish always get on so well. So
Yeah.
I took the chance to go over and play for the Ospreys. And at that time, they were an unbelievable team. They were called the Galacticos, like the Real Madrid of football. They had an unbelievable team. So a lot of people questioned whether I'd be good enough to even get into that
Yeah.
side. So it was a good opportunity for me.
But you know what, like say rugby is the Welsh national sport. If it's not,
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But obviously because they take rugby so serious over there in Wales, and it's such like a massive sport there. Like, did you find going there a difference in culture or attitude to training over there?
Yeah, well, I found there was a huge difference in training, and it was a little bit like what I mentioned when I went to Queen's University. They very much like to play running rugby. It was all about skills, and
Yeah.
whatever way the style of rugby was, it just suited me down to the ground, and I just adapted to it so fast.
Yeah.
But I also think, Paddy, which is really important, it pushed me completely outside my comfort zone. Going to join a new team means you have to try and earn the respect of your new teammates. So you bust your ass. And I swear, when that pre-season over in Wales, I'd never trained so hard. I practiced my skills nonstop. I was always doing extras. I was doing extra fitness just because this team of superstars, I wanted to be seen. I wanted the respect.
Yeah.
And I think that extra work that I put in really paid off. And it meant, that those guys, they appreciated me making that effort, but also my rugby just went to the next level. So it was really a worthwhile move. And it was the best rugby I ever played over there.
Yeah. And a more light-hearted note, you talk about respect there. You want to be basically like being par with your teammates.
Big time.
Like obviously you train with like the likes of Gavin Hansen.
Yeah.
Tell you this. Did you wear fake tan any time like himself?
I didn't, but there was, I swear, you should have seen it over there, Paddy. Like you had Gavin Henson, James Hook, Shane Williams, Mike Phillips and Lee Byrne, and they called themselves the Fab Five, right? We used to go to Limerick to play against Munster, and we stayed in the Castle Troy Hotel. And so we would land in, say we're playing on a Saturday, we'd land in on the Friday, and we'd normally go to Thomond Park and do a practice run.
Yeah.
Before we go to Thomond, they'd all check into the beauty salon in the hotel to get a tan before we went to the captain's run or for after the unreal. And it was there. And I coming from Ireland, I was like, are you serious? Like, I don't think it's this slagging. And they were like, oh, what? Look good, play good. And that was their thing. Look good, play good. So Gavin Henson, he was like chest shaved, hair spiked, tanned up. It was unbelievable. Different, like, honestly, coming from Ireland, it was just so different. Yeah. But listen, that's the way they did it, and it worked.
It worked. I can say it did work. We were a very, very talented group of players.
And he was going out with Charlotte Church, so it must have worked as well.
Exactly. Come back to Ireland here. You won the Grand Slam in 2009.
Yeah.
How was that? That was obviously Grand Slam is absolutely huge. How was it for you as an achievement?
Listen, it was the first time Ireland had won a Grand Slam in 61 years.
Yeah.
Since Jack Kyle, I think, was the captain of the team, who was a famous Ulster and Ireland rugby player as well. So to be part of that team, I hadn't won very much in my career up until that stage. I was over in the Ospreys at the time, so we were playing against Wales in that final match. So I was playing up against a load of the Ospreys teammates. But to be a part of that game, and the fact, I don't know if you remember the game, it came down to the very last kick in the last play of the game. Stephen Jones had a kick from the halfway line. and he kicked it, and it just landed short of the crossbar. And because he missed that, we went on. We won the game, therefore winning the Grand Slam. So it's only ever been done at that stage. It had only ever been done twice by an Irish team, and then Rory Best captained Ireland to do it a couple of years ago as well. So it's only been done 3 times to win every game in the Six Nations. So very proud, and it was an incredible day, incredible to be a part of, and I know for my family and everybody to be there was unreal.
I think it's great for yourself. You've come through kind of a golden age of rugby. Like O'Driscoll, O'Gara, Big Paul O'Connell, Big Paul O'Connell. That boy's a scary boy.
He is a scary boy. Yeah. No, listen, I was fortunate, like the era that I've come into to play alongside the likes of O'Gara, O'Connell, O'Driscoll. Yeah. But the thing was, Paddy, a little bit like you you were part of Irish boxing's golden times,
Conlon and Frampton and
exactly.
Massive name.
But your crew were what took Irish boxing to that next level, and really that's what the O'Driscolls, O'Connell, O'Garas did for Irish rugby. Irish rugby were kind of middlemen; they weren't really winning anything, but with those guys, they took the professionalism and took Ireland to the next level to compete with the best in the world.
Yeah,
exactly like what you guys did in boxing, and for me to be a part of that group, to be a part of that went on to win things for Ireland it was incredible to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but that day you did sing Black Velvet. But don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to sing it again.
No, don't worry, I won't. This is water, unfortunately, not Guinness. Listen, that was a running joke. After the team camaraderie we had, that Six Nations was brilliant, and after every match that we won, we'd all finish up in a huddle together in the after-match function, and it would just turn into this huge sing-song with whatever team we were with, the Scots, the English, it was mad, and it was just it was brilliant crack. But that was my song, and I don't even know the words to it, but after the Welsh match, I hadn't slept. I'd been up all night drinking champagne with a couple of the lads, and Donegal O'Callaghan, when we got back to Dublin, we got taken out onto the stage. Couldn't even see straight, so I didn't even know what was going on. And stupidly sang that song.
Listen, brilliant. But here, this week, actually, you were voted into the All-Time Queen's University team, the best 15, sorry.
Yes.
Mix of Trevor England and who was it? Jack Kyle.
You have Jack Kyle, yeah. Willie John McBride. No, Willie John wasn't. Sorry, he wasn't Queen's. He wasn't Queen's.
He wasn't there. But obviously, that must be a proud moment for yourself.
Well, listen, as I mentioned with Queen's rugby team, I owe so much to them. And listen, I think they have more Irish internationals than any other rugby club in Ireland. And when I think about who are the people who missed out on that team, you have the likes of David Humphreys didn't get into the team, David Irwin, Ian Henderson, current, he's a Lion, Ulster captain. So many people didn't make it in. Yeah. So to be named in that, it is incredible. Listen, it's nice to look back on, but there are good times. And I think, listen, as you will say yourself, being named in these things is great, but it's the memories, and you remember that, like the memories I have of playing for Queens and the fun that we had and the games we won are what it's all about. And it's like the memories of being like, listen, everyone loved talking about your medals at the Olympics, but it's the memories that you had getting there is what's special.
It does. And I think if you can remember this, as part of the Irish boxing team, we went to the place you stayed at, Carton House. There.
Yes, I remember.
And after putting us through a boxing session, we were paired together with certain members of the team to spar. I had Big Dan too.
Oh yes, yeah.
But so I've explained. So I had Big Dan too, massive fella.
Dan's like 6'7", like
I'm
monster.
5 feet nothing. So I was throwing loads of punts at him fast, and he was like, cut up laughing. I couldn't hurt the big fella. But I seen him loading up a big uppercut. I mean, if he hits me, I'm going through the ceiling.
Yeah.
But as that, Mick Conlon and Sean Cronin flew through us, killing each other.
They were going for it.
They were going for it. And I looked around again. Sean Cronin was vomiting in the bin for ages.
Yeah. Well, so thankfully, there was a few fellas I remember had to volunteer to do it. So Dan too, he really fancies himself as boxer, so he loves boxing.
Yeah.
And Sean Cronin, we just everybody voted for him to get up. So I think there was maybe 6 or 10 of the lads got up.
You're right, that happened.
But I remember you lads did a warm up. And the warm-up must have taken 20 minutes, just doing circles and jumps and punching in the air. Sean Cronin was, honestly, I've never seen him so tired. So then you had to do the sparring. And I remember actually Dan losing the plot all right. And you could see the fire coming into his eye that he was going to try and land one on you. But I'll never forget you and Michael Conlon both trying to have a go at Sean Cronin. And like, he just didn't know what to do. He was... But yeah, he ended up throwing up in the bin. So it shows that the boxers, your training, lads, is a lot tougher than ours. That was great crack, actually.
But for the boys, the mixed boxing and their training, maybe.
You know what? It was brilliant for us because when we go into a Six Nations training camp, you are stuck together, a bit like what you know the same. You're in the same group with the same people. You don't leave the hotel for 8 weeks, and you get fed up with each other. So for us to bring in you lads, and we all sat and had dinner, and I think you were sitting at our table, and you're telling us how you used to sneak out to nightclubs and stuff. And but we were all like mixed, the rugby players with the boxers, and it's just brilliant because you're talking professional sports people are at top level, but such different stories and such different disciplines. And I'll never forget some of the stories you lads were telling about cutting weight. Like that's the sort of stuff we never had to worry about. And it's mind-boggling for us to think, we're professionals here, but what you lads are going through was just incredible.
It's equally as tough, in certain levels. It's equally as tough. All sports have their own thing.
Well, I'd say that's really like. To be fair, listen, we're part of a team. And I love team sport. I couldn't do individual sport. I just don't have the mental capacity to know that everything rests on me in that ring. And no, I have so much respect for the boxers, the likes of yourself, because the discipline you guys have, and then the loneliness, I'm sure, whenever you step into that ring of how, like if you lose, you know who's to blame, unfortunately, and that must be so difficult, where at least I just go and blame the lads who missed the kicks or the fat forwards.
Here, what would you say would have been the highest moment of your career?
To be a part of the British and Irish Lions was phenomenal. It was actually beyond a dream, something I never thought I'd be a part of. To play for that Grand Slam that you mentioned in 2009 was a huge dream, but actually my first ever time playing for Ireland will always stand out as my favourite. And it's a bit cheesy, but growing up... Your
first national cap is always the best.
And that's it. Because growing up in Monaghan, rugby, it was always my dream, but I never thought that I would go on to actually play for Ireland. And growing up in Monaghan, I didn't go the traditional route, like I mentioned earlier. So to actually get picked to play for Ireland and my family being in the crowd, and it was the old Lansdowne Road before it turned into the Aviva Stadium. It really was a dream come true. And I scored that day as well. So
have you still at the top?
I still have the top. It's actually at home with we played against USA. So my opposite number gave me his jersey as well. So the two of them are framed at home beside each other. This is, I think that's my last ever cap. So it is. So I have Ulster one here signed by all the lads. The Ospreys. I have the Lions and the Barbarians. So very lucky. Listen, this is the only memorabilia I have in the house. But it's nice to look at now and again.
Definitely. What would you say would have been the lowest moment in your career then?
I have quite a few of them as well. Playing for Ireland, I got a 0 out of 10 in the paper one time playing the Six Nations.
What reporter was that?
A guy Neil Francis, and listen, I've mentioned this to him many a time, and you'd think you'd just get a 1 for running out onto the park.
Exactly.
But I was playing against France in the Six Nations, and I got taken off just after half time. It wasn't my best game, but yeah, 0 out of 10. So I was only 23 at that stage, maybe 22, and that was difficult to try and bounce back from.
Yeah.
Mentally more than anything, that dented my confidence a lot. And then through injuries, I particularly towards the end of my career, I had a huge amount of injuries.
Yeah.
And listen, you'll know again, the training and commitment it takes to get yourself to that top level, to play at that top level, and to get an injury where you drop right back down again, and then to build yourself back up, it's really difficult. So those kind of periods of going up and down with getting injured and fit was tough.
Tell me, before we go on here, playing for the Lions, right? Tell me, for someone who doesn't know, is it only the best of the best get selected to play for the Lions? Is that the way it works?
Yeah. So the Lions is the best. So it only happens once in every 4 years. Okay. And they pick a squad of 30 players from the best 30 players from Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales to go and play against a team from the Southern Hemisphere. So Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa. And so they're going to be playing against South Africa next summer. But yes, so literally whenever you go into the Six Nations, you get picked for Ireland, which is difficult enough. But then for the Lions, you're trying to stand out against all the other wingers in the other teams. So it's a huge privilege to get picked for the Lions, phenomenal.
Tell me this, obviously, you're playing in Six Nations and for Ospreys and Ulster against teams in Europe, but seeing you play against teams from the Southern Hemisphere, is the kind of style, is the playing style different anyway? Are they more physical?
So it's different. So Australia will be a lot faster tempo. They play with a lot more skill. South Africa are just monsters.
Yeah.
If you watch them in the World Cup, I don't know where they breed these days. They are just huge. So they just play a really physical match. Whenever you play against South Africa, you're going to be sore after it. And then New Zealand are that kind of perfect combination between that. They're like huge, but also really skillful. And that's why they're the best team in the world, because they blend the best of the best. So where Northern Hemisphere rugby would seem to be a little bit slower, it's all about set piece, lineouts and scrums and play off that, where Southern Hemisphere is a little bit different.
Brilliant. Again, from Ulster you travel to Wales to play for the Ospreys. How hard was it leaving Ireland to go and train abroad? Like, what I mean to say is, like, leaving your family. Like, was it tough? Did it affect you mentally in any way?
Sorry, Paddy, I lost you there again.
Okay,
sorry.
So it says, about traveling to Wales for the Ospreys. I want to know how tough it was for you mentally, because you had to leave your family behind.
Yeah, it was difficult going to join a new team, and move to a new house, and live in a new area that you don't know is hard. Now, I was single at the time, so I didn't have a family and wife or anything to take with me, which in a sense made it easier, because it meant I could just throw myself straight into it. And really, listen, I was 24. I was going to join a new team full of lads, all between the ages of 18 and 30. So like, the crack was great, and I loved it. But it's stressful going to a new place, but I saw it as a real opportunity for me, and I really threw myself into it. Really tried to train as much as I could, trying to get to know the other guys as much as I could. So it was enjoyable. I loved it. Do
you think putting yourself, testing yourself in situations such as that, like playing in another country, staying there and training there, do you think it gives you kind of an edge, and it gives you odds your skill and odds your game?
I believe it's the best thing that I ever did. And I think more people should do it, because it broadens your horizons. If you think about it, you had only the one coach your whole career.
Yeah.
I do understand that coach will know you better than anyone, and you will have such a bond with that guy. But I think that if you go see a new coach with new ideas, it rounds your game. So one thing that you used to be very good at, you might learn something completely different. Yeah. And I think joining a new team, going to a different place, it just broadens your horizons a little bit. And I also think it puts you outside your comfort zone. Like I think definitely in sport and certainly in rugby, if you get picked for the same team week in, week out, you kind of get a bit complacent. And you have to test yourself sometimes. And certainly that move for me worked out brilliant. But I also know the other side, Paddy, that I know a lot of guys who've moved and it hasn't worked for them. So that is the risk that you're taking. You know, you could go to a new coach and you just don't bond or it doesn't work. And it's hard then to go back. And in a sense, actually me going back to Ulster, because when I came back from the Ospreys to Ulster, I found it difficult because I came back and I started picking up a lot of injuries and I probably never got back to the level that I wanted to be at.
It's unfortunate. Like, at the minute, with what's going on with the coronavirus, like, you know, how do you think about matches now with limited or no fans? You know, how will it play out?
It's hard to see. You know, it really is. I don't know how a lot of the teams are going to survive without fans, because the way the likes of Ulster get any money is that they get their money in from filling out the Kingspan Stadium. You know, 16,000 fans every second weekend, and you know the burger vans and the jerseys and all that sort of stuff off it. So if they can't sell any supporters jerseys, they can't get any supporters into the stadiums. You know, they get a little bit of television money, but it's not like you get over in England. So it's hard to see how the game is going to keep going. How can they keep affording to pay everybody's salary? So it's worrying times. I think it's worrying times for all sports and all businesses at the minute. But unfortunately, it is what it is. And unless we can kind of either learn to live with COVID or we can find a vaccine, it's hard to know. Like, you know, I'm involved in business as well, and I know how difficult it is out there. So, it's kind of scary times, to be honest.
Like, you say you're involved in this. Is this your new shoe line or your new clothing range?
Yes.
That's big up.
I see you wearing a dodgy Adidas top. I'll sort you out, lad. Don't you worry. Well, say you're only up the road. I'll be able to bring some stuff up to you. Although I don't know if we've got kid sizes in yet. Yes, no. I have a shoe range called Lloyd and Price, which is actually 10 years old. It's been going since 2010, and a clothing range called 15 Kings, which has been going 7.5 years. So
15 Kings make Ulster rugby tops too.
So XV Kings, no, we're sponsoring the Queen's rugby team's jerseys.
Right.
But yeah, listen, it's completely away from rugby. Again, when I was playing rugby, I always liked to have something outside of the sport to try and focus my mind on. So, and particularly when I was injured, it was really good to have that. But we sell to over 200 shops, independent retailers all over the country. And everything from gilets to jackets to polo shirts, chinos, jeans, and shoes as well. So we have boys' shoes, girls' shoes, kids' shoes. So the whole lot. Yeah. So it's busy. It's good.
And tell me, do you have a shop in the city centre of Belfast?
No, we used to sell into a shop called Cuba Clothing.
No, I always imagined it was you had this shop. It's like a crystal shop.
No, I don't think so. Bowe Crystals.
No, it wasn't even Bowe Crystal. It was something else. I thought it was your shop. I tell everyone it's yours.
Really? No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, it's not your shop.
No. What was it? Crystals in it?
I definitely crystals. No, I'll get a picture of it tomorrow.
Luns. No,
Jack, I'll send you tomorrow on Twitter what it is.
Right. Okay. No, it's not.
Obviously, now at the minute you're working with Ireland AM.
Yes. Yeah.
How's that for you?
So it's good. So listen, it's brilliant. Actually, I've just started off working with them. I'm now co-anchor on that, but it means I'm on 4 days a week. We're on air at 7 o'clock until 10 every morning, Monday to Thursday, and then I'm doing the rugby with Air Sport for the Pro 14 every Friday and Saturday. So it's busy. I have a lot going on, but it's good. When I retired, Paddy, I didn't want to go into the punditry side.
Yeah. Which
is something that a lot of players go into. I thought that I could try and learn how to get into presenting.
Yeah.
And I thought if I could crack that, which is it's a completely different skill, but if I can crack that, it gives me an opportunity, because I know what the changing room is like on the inside of the Aviva Stadium, or what a coach would be saying at halftime.
Yeah.
So to try and bring that out of myself and the two pundits to the people at home, I think would be really interesting. So it's been a fun journey.
Well, fortunately for yourself, you have the speech and talk of a presenter, unlike myself.
Yeah, I've got
I'm watching me at an AM.
Oh, well, I'd love to get you on. I'd love to get you on for a chat sometime. It'd be brilliant.
Imagine me but being a presenter, but
of course you could.
No one could ever understand me.
Listen, sure, look at everybody. Sure, look at, you have Eamon Holmes, you have Christine Lampard, you have all these people with Northern Ireland accents who are killing it on the television. People in the South and people in England in particular love an Irish accent. So I wouldn't write it off now.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we're going to do a quick fire round.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Right. Not general knowledge, is it?
No. It's about yourself. If you could choose a different sport, what would it be?
Would be tennis. I'm trying to learn how to play tennis at the minute.
Very good.
And I just look at Roger Federer and I'm just in awe of him. So if I could get like that, amazing.
Technically talented. Who would you say is your greatest rival, or was your greatest rival?
Do you know what? I think one of my greatest friends and greatest rivals would have been Andrew Trimble. The fact that we both played on the wing, we were both the same age, but we used to always vie for getting picked for Ireland, getting picked for Ulster. And I think because we had that great rivalry and friendship, it actually pushed us to excel beyond what we were probably both capable of. So I think in terms of a rival in that sense, but the one player I used to hate coming up against was a guy, Shane Williams. He was the Welsh winger. He was 5'6", a bit like yourself, actually. He's a sort of, like, I would have taken one of those, a Tyson Fury or an Anthony Joshua up against me on the wing, no problem, because I know they'd just try and run over the top of me. Yeah. But see, trying to mark somebody like you, I lay a finger on you. And hated that.
Did you have any pre-match superstitions?
No, I had a routine. Listen, I was quite forgetful, so I'd turn up some days without my gum shield. I actually played for Queen's University. This is a story for you. So I turned up for Queen's University with one left studded boot and then one and the right molded boot, two different boots.
Yeah, boots.
And the head coach said to me, like, he was going to report me back to Ulster for being so, like, airbrained or whatever.
Yes.
But the following week, I turned up with two left boots. We had to play in Ballina, and they taught this how I turned up with. I had two left boots that they had to go off to the Lost and Found and find me a right boot.
you're more punchy than me, Tommy.
But I scored a try with one left boot and one, and you should have seen the state of the right boot that they gave me as well. I had to tape it on.
Have you got a favorite quote or a favorite saying?
I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that I have had quite a few setbacks through my career, and I have had things that I didn't listen when I talked to you there about my A levels not going as well as I planned. Yeah. At that stage I thought my world was falling apart, but things seem to work out. And I think if you always have something to aim for, you've always got some sort of dream. I'm a big believer in setting goals. And, there could be daily goals, weekly goals, and long-term ones. So, you'll have setbacks, and these things happen for a reason. But if you keep believing, these things, something will work out.
Who's your favorite sports person, past or present?
I mentioned Roger Federer. I just think he's just incredible. Nice. Yeah. Like, look at the age of him as well, and he still just keeps getting better and better. So, in terms of and if you talk about, like, as I mentioned there, individual sports person, the mental toughness you guys have. But again, in tennis, you see those guys, and I don't really watch much tennis. I only watch it when Wimbledon comes on. But, whenever you see those guys playing, like, it's just how they come back from so far down, unreal.
They're playing for hours on end too.
Yeah, 5-6 hours. It's amazing.
Really? I know. Well, Tommy, listen, it was a pleasure having you on the PaddyCast.
Oh man, listen, thank you. Pleasure to come and chat to you. Good times.
And I wish you all the success for the future.
And we'll get you on Ireland AM soon.
Let's do it.
Love to have you on. Absolutely.
Yeah. You be message, I'll be straight on.
Okay, no worries. Listen, Paddy, listen, keep up the good work. Chat to you again.
Thanks, Tommy. Take it easy, mate.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.